Walk straight. Sophia pressed her palm against the marble wall of the hallway, her ankle screaming with every step. The chandelier above her blurred as tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. I said walk straight, Sophia. Marcus Volkov's voice cut through the air like a blade, cold and precise. He stood at the far end of the corridor, arms crossed over his tailored black suit, his pale gray eyes tracking her every movement. You're embarrassing yourself. She tried. God, she tried. But her left foot buckled beneath her weight, and she had to catch herself against the wall again, gasping at the sharp bolt of pain that shot up her leg. I can't, she whispered, her voice breaking. Can't or won't. He took 3 measured steps toward her, and she flinched. His expression didn't change. It never did. That was what terrified her most about Marcus Volkov. Other men wore their cruelty on their faces. He wore nothing at all. My fiancé doesn't limp. My fiancé stands tall beside me at every function, every meeting, every moment that matters. Do you understand what you're jeopardizing with this performance? Performance. As if she'd chosen to fall down the marble staircase 2 nights ago. As if she'd wanted to land at the bottom with her ankle twisted at an angle that made her vision go white. He'd been the one standing at the top of those stairs. He'd been the one who'd stepped aside when his sister Irina came rushing toward her with murder in her eyes. Marcus, please. Sophia's voice came out smaller than she intended. I think something's really wrong. It's swollen, and I can barely... Enough. He held up one hand, silencing her with the gesture. The gala is in 3 hours. You will be ready, you will be flawless, and you will not make me look weak in front of the bratva. Do I make myself clear? She nodded, because what else could she do? When Marcus Volkov gave an order, you obeyed. That was the lesson she'd learned 6 months ago, when her father's gambling debts had landed her at Marcus's door as payment. That was the lesson reinforced every single day since, in 1,000 small cruelties dressed up as expectations. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing against the marble. She waited until he disappeared around the corner before she allowed herself to slide down the wall, her good leg giving out beneath her. The pain was unbearable. The swelling had gotten worse overnight, purple bruising spreading up from her ankle like ink in water. She'd asked the housekeeper for ice that morning, but the woman had shaken her head fearfully and hurried away. No one in Marcus's household did anything without his explicit permission. Sophia closed her eyes and tried to breathe through the throbbing. 3 hours. She had to figure out how to walk in 3 hours, or her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Unknown number. This is Dr. Sarah Chen from Riverside Physical Therapy. I received a referral for you from Dr. Mitchell's office. I've reviewed your x-rays from the emergency room visit 2 days ago. I need to see you immediately. Someone broke your ankle. This isn't a sprain. Sophia's blood went cold. Emergency room visit? She'd never been to the emergency room. She'd never seen a Dr. Mitchell. She'd been at the mansion for 2 days straight since the fall, and Marcus had refused to let her leave or see a doctor, insisting she was being dramatic. Her fingers trembled as she typed back, "You have the wrong person." The response came within seconds. Sophia Reeves, age 27, admitted to Riverside General at 11:47 p.m. on October 15th. Someone brought you in unconscious. You had a concussion and a fractured ankle. You left AMA before we could treat you properly. If you don't get medical attention, you risk permanent damage. The phone slipped from her hands, clattering against the marble floor. She remembered falling. She remembered the blinding pain, remembered looking up and seeing Irina's satisfied smirk as she stood at the top of the stairs. She remembered Marcus appearing, remembered him saying something to his sister in rapid Russian. And then, nothing. A blank space where hours should have been. Had he taken her to the hospital? Had he then forced her to leave against medical advice, brought her back here, and told her to stop complaining about a little sprain? Her hands curled into fists. The pain in her ankle became secondary to the rage building in her chest. He knew. Marcus knew her ankle was broken, and he was demanding she walk on it, threatening her if she didn't perform for his associates like a trained animal. She grabbed her phone and pulled herself to her feet. Foot, rather. She wouldn't put weight on her left ankle again. Not for him. Not for anyone. Sophia hobbled toward the east wing of the mansion, toward the servants' quarters, where she knew there was a back exit. She'd watched Marcus's household staff come and go enough times to know the patterns, the guard rotations, the security gaps. She'd been a prisoner pretending to be a fiancé for 6 months. She'd survived by being compliant, by being invisible, by never pushing back. But this was different. This wasn't about pride or dignity. This was about her body, her ability to walk, her future. She made it halfway down the back hallway before the door at the far end opened and Victor stepped through. Victor Petrov was Marcus's right hand, his enforcer, the man who made problems disappear. He was massive, well over 6 feet, with shoulders that barely fit through door frames and a face that looked like it had lost several arguments with brick walls. His dark eyes landed on her, and his expression shifted from neutral to concerned in an instant. "Miss Reeves." He moved toward her quickly. "You shouldn't be walking on that." "I need to leave." She kept her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Just let me go, Victor. Please." He glanced back toward the main house, then returned his gaze to her. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "He'll come after you." "I don't care." "You should." Victor's voice dropped lower. "I've seen what Marcus does to people who try to leave, to people who embarrass him. He's going to destroy my ankle if I stay." She met his eyes. "I'd rather take my chances." Something flickered across Victor's face, something that might have been respect, or pity, or both. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of car keys. "Black sedan, 3rd spot in the garage. Take the service road out past the south gate. Guards change shifts in 8 minutes. You'll have a window." He pressed the keys into her palm. "But Miss Reeves, when he finds you, and he will find you, don't say I helped you." She wanted to thank him, but there wasn't time. She took the keys and moved as quickly as her injury would allow. The garage was dim and cool, smelling of motor oil and expensive leather. The black sedan sat exactly where Victor said it would be. Sophia slid into the driver's seat and adjusted it with trembling hands, then started the engine. The service road wound through the wooded property, narrow and tree-lined. Her headlights cut through the gathering dusk as she drove, her phone GPS directing her toward Riverside Physical Therapy. Her ankle throbbed with every small movement of her foot, but she gritted her teeth and kept driving. She'd made it almost a mile when the black SUV appeared in her rearview mirror. No. She pressed harder on the accelerator, but the sedan was no match for the SUV's power. It closed the distance effortlessly, pulling up alongside her. Through the tinted windows, she could see Marcus in the passenger seat, his face carved from stone. The SUV swerved, forcing her off the road. Sophia yanked the wheel hard, felt the sedan's tires leave the pavement and bite into grass and gravel. She slammed on the brakes, and the car skidded to a stop inches from a large oak tree. Before she could react, her door was yanked open. Marcus stood there, backlit by the SUV's headlights, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw genuine emotion on his face. Fury. "Get out!" His voice was deadly quiet. "No!" The word came out steadier than she expected. His hand shot out and gripped her upper arm, dragging her from the car. The moment her injured ankle touched the ground, agony exploded up her leg, and she cried out, collapsing against him. Marcus caught her, his arms like iron bands around her waist. "You think you can steal from me and just drive away?" he hissed against her ear. "You think I'll let you humiliate me like this? You broke my ankle." She shoved against his chest, but he didn't budge. "The hospital called. I know you took me there, and I know you made me leave before they could cast it. You've been forcing me to walk on a broken bone for 2 days. I made a calculation." His grip tightened. The gala is more important than your temporary discomfort. Temporary? She laughed, and it came out half-sob. The physical therapist said I could have permanent damage. For the briefest moment, something shifted in his expression. Then it was gone, shuttered behind his usual mask. "Victor," Marcus called out. The big man emerged from the SUV, his face carefully blank. "Take her back to the house. Lock her in the east bedroom. No phone, no visitors." "Marcus, please." He released her so suddenly she nearly fell. Victor caught her instead, his massive hands surprisingly gentle as he supported her weight. "The gala starts in 90 minutes, Marcus said, straightening his suit jacket. "You've cost me valuable time with this little escape attempt. We'll discuss your punishment after." He walked back to the SUV without another word. Victor carried her, actually lifted her like she weighed nothing, and placed her in the back seat of the sedan. He climbed in beside her, and one of Marcus's other men got behind the wheel. The drive back to the mansion was silent. Sophia stared out the window, watching the trees blur past, and felt something inside her go cold and hard. She'd tried. She'd actually tried to save herself, and she'd failed. The east bedroom was lavish and suffocating, all cream silk and gold fixtures and locked windows. Victor deposited her on the bed with unexpected care, then positioned a pillow under her injured ankle. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, meeting her eyes. "I hoped you'd make it." Then he left, and she heard the lock click into place. Sophia lay back against the pillows and stared at the ceiling. The gala would start soon. Marcus would go without her, would tell some story about her being ill, would maintain his perfect facade while she rotted in this gilded cage. Her phone buzzed. She sat up quickly, too quickly, jarring her ankle and gasping at the pain. But wait. Victor had taken her phone when he'd locked her in, hadn't he? She'd watched him pocket it. The buzz came again. She looked around wildly and spotted it on the nightstand, screen glowing with an incoming call. "Dr. Sarah Chen." With shaking hands, Sophia answered. "Hello? Ms. Reeves?" The voice was warm, professional, concerned. "This is Dr. Chen from Riverside Physical Therapy. I've been trying to reach you. Are you safe?" The question broke something inside her. Sophia pressed her hand over her mouth to muffle the sob that escaped. "Ms. Reeves. Sophia? Talk to me." "I'm locked in a bedroom," she whispered. "He won't let me leave. He won't let me get treatment. My ankle. Dr. Chen, it hurts so much, and he just keeps saying I'm being dramatic. But I know something's really wrong. Okay, listen to me very carefully." Dr. Chen's voice sharpened with authority. "What's your location?" "The Volkov estate. It's about 15 miles outside Riverside, off route." "I know where it is." There was a pause, the sound of papers rustling. "Sophia, I'm going to send help. But I need you to do something for me first. Is there any way you can send me a photo of your ankle? I need to assess the severity." With trembling fingers, Sophia lifted her pant leg and took several photos, each one showing the horrifying purple and black bruising. The swelling that had grown so severe, her ankle looked twice its normal size. She sent them through. The silence on the other end lasted too long. "Dr. Chen?" "Sophia." The doctor's voice had gone deadly serious. "This is much worse than I feared. If you don't receive proper medical attention within the next few hours, you're looking at potential compartment syndrome, possible blood clots, and yes, permanent mobility damage. I'm calling the police right now." "No!" Sophia sat up straighter, ignoring the pain. "You don't understand. Marcus Volkov, he's not. The police won't help. Half of them are on his payroll. If you call them, he'll just make this go away, and I'll—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Another pause. Then, "I have a friend, someone who might be able to help." "Can you give me 20 minutes?" "I don't know if I have 20 minutes. The gala? 20 minutes, Dr. Chen repeated firmly. "Stay on the line with me. Don't hang up. Talk to me about anything. Your favorite movie, your childhood, whatever. Just stay with me." So Sophia talked. She talked about growing up in a small town 3 hours north, about her mother who died when she was 12, about her father who'd loved her but loved gambling more. She talked about the night 6 months ago when Marcus's men had shown up at her apartment with papers her father had signed, papers that transferred his debt, and her, to Marcus Volkov, in exchange for forgiveness of everything he owed. She talked until she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her door. "Someone's coming," she breathed. "Hide the phone," Dr. Chen ordered. Sophia shoved it under the pillow just as the lock clicked and the door swung open. But it wasn't Victor or one of Marcus's guards. The man who stepped through was tall and lean, with dark hair shot through with silver at the temples, and eyes the color of whiskey. He wore black tactical gear and moved with the fluid confidence of someone who'd spent years navigating dangerous situations. Behind him, 2 more men in similar gear swept the room with practiced efficiency. "Sophia Reeves?" The man's voice was deep and carried a hint of a British accent. She nodded, too shocked to speak. "My name is James Blackwood. Dr. Chen called me. I'm getting you out of here." He crossed to the bed and crouched down to examine her ankle, his expression growing grimmer by the second. "Christ, how long have you been walking on this?" 2 days. He said it was just a sprain. James's jaw tightened. He's either criminally negligent or deliberately cruel. Possibly both. He looked up at his men. "Connor, call for medical evac. Tell them we need immediate transport to Riverside General. I want a full surgical team standing by." Back to Sophia. "Can you move your toes?" She tried, managed a slight wiggle that sent fresh waves of pain through her leg. "Good, that's good. Means we haven't lost nerve function yet." He pulled out a compact medical kit and began working with swift, sure movements. "This is going to hurt. I need to stabilize this before we move you." "Who are you?" Sophia gasped as he began wrapping her ankle in some kind of rigid support. "How did you get past Marcus's security?" A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I've been dealing with men like Marcus Volkov for 20 years, sweetheart. His security might be good, but mine's better." He finished with the wrapping and stood. "Connor, status?" "Medical team scrambled. ETA 12 minutes. The other man was speaking quietly into a radio. "But sir, we've got movement on the grounds. Multiple hostiles converging on the main house." "Marcus is back from the gala already?" Sophia's voice cracked with fear. "Unlikely." James checked his watch. "He's probably received word that something's wrong. Someone triggering the security system, perhaps." He looked at her intently. "Sophia, I need to know right now. Do you want to leave? Because once we walk out that door, there's no going back. Marcus Volkov will come after you with everything he has." She thought about her ankle, throbbing and screaming beneath the wrapping. She thought about the past 6 months of fear and control and invisible cages. She thought about spending the rest of her life walking on eggshells, or not walking at all, if Marcus continued to deny her medical care. "Get me out of here." James nodded once, then scooped her up as easily as Victor had. "Connor, Alex, formation beta. We move fast and quiet until we can't. Then we move fast and loud. Clear?" "Clear." They moved through the mansion like ghosts, James carrying her with apparent ease while his men flanked them. They'd made it to the main staircase when the front door burst open and Marcus strode in, his face a mask of cold rage. He froze when he saw them. His gaze moved from Sophia in James's arms to the armed men surrounding them, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "Put her down!" "Not a chance." James's voice was calm, almost conversational. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Marcus took a step forward. Behind him, 4 of his own security guards appeared, hands moving toward concealed weapons. "Actually, I do. Marcus Volkov, second son of the Volkov Bratva, current head of Eastern Seaboard Operations. Net worth approximately $2 billion, most of it from illegal arms dealing and trafficking. Wanted in 6 countries, protected by dirty officials in 24 more. James's smile was sharp as a knife. "I've done my homework. Question is, have you done yours?" "I don't know who you think you are." James Blackwood, former MI6, current private security contractor. I specialize in extracting people from situations exactly like this one. I have diplomatic immunity in 14 countries, including this one, and I have video evidence. He nodded to Alex, who held up a tablet showing multiple angles of Marcus forcing Sophia to walk on her broken ankle. Of you committing assault and unlawful imprisonment. So here's what's going to happen. I'm walking out that door with Ms. Reeves. You're going to let me. And then you're going to deal with the federal investigation that's about to land on your doorstep. Marcus's face went white, then red. She belongs to me. Her father signed. A contract that holds exactly 0 legal weight, as I'm sure you're aware. Debt bondage is illegal in the United States, Mr. Volkov, even for men like you. James shifted Sophia's weight slightly. Now, are we doing this the easy way or the hard way? For a long, tense moment, nobody moved. Sophia could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears, could feel James's arms tighten protectively around her. Then Marcus's phone rang. He answered it, listened for 5 seconds, and his face went ashen. What? A pause. All of them? Another pause. I see. He lowered the phone slowly, his eyes fixed on James with new understanding. You didn't come alone? Did you really think I would? James's smile widened. While we've been chatting, my team has been busy securing evidence from your estate. Financial records, security footage, communications logs. Everything the FBI will need to build their case. In fact, he glanced at his watch, they should be arriving with warrants in approximately 4 minutes. As if on cue, the distant sound of sirens began to wail. Marcus's guards shifted nervously, hands moving away from their weapons. Even they could read the writing on the wall. You've destroyed me, Marcus said quietly, his gaze shifting to Sophia. After everything I gave you, safety, security, purpose, you gave me a cage. Sophia's voice came out stronger than she expected. You broke my ankle and told me to dance. That's not safety. That's not love. That's cruelty dressed up as protection. Something flickered across his face, hurt, perhaps, or the closest thing to it a man like Marcus Volkov could feel. Then it was gone, replaced by cold calculation. I'll see you again, Sophia. That's a promise. No, James said simply. You won't. The sirens grew louder. James turned and walked toward the door, carrying Sophia past Marcus without another word. His team fell in around them as they exited into the cool evening air. A helicopter sat on the front lawn, rotors already spinning. Beyond it, a convoy of black FBI vehicles was racing up the long drive. James carried her to the helicopter and settled her carefully into a seat, strapping her in with gentle efficiency. Medical team's meeting us at the hospital. You're going to be fine, Sophia. I promise. She looked back at the mansion one last time. Through the windows, she could see FBI agents streaming inside, could see Marcus being backed against a wall, hands up. For the first time in 6 months, she could breathe. The surgery took 4 hours. Dr. Sarah Chen was there when Sophia woke up, sitting in a chair beside the hospital bed. She was younger than Sophia expected, mid-30s perhaps, with kind eyes and an air of competent warmth. Welcome back, she smiled. How are you feeling? Foggy, Sophia's voice came out rough. My ankle is going to heal. We had to do some significant reconstruction. The bone had started healing incorrectly, which is what happens when you walk on a fracture for days. But Dr. Martinez is the best orthopedic surgeon in the state. You'll need physical therapy, lots of it, but you should regain full function. Dr. Chen leaned forward. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to you sooner. You saved my life. Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes. You and James. I don't even understand how... James Blackwood is my brother-in-law. When I realized the situation you were in, I knew he was the only one who could help. Dr. Chen squeezed her hand. You're safe now. Marcus Volkov is in federal custody. The evidence James's team gathered is ironclad. He won't be bothering anyone for a very long time. Sophia closed her eyes, letting the relief wash over her in waves. Safe. She was safe. "There's someone else here to see you," Dr. Chen said gently. "If you're up for it." Before Sophia could ask who, the door opened and James Blackwood stepped inside. He'd traded the tactical gear for dark jeans and a gray sweater, and he carried a bouquet of white roses. "How's our patient?" He set the roses on the bedside table and pulled up another chair. "Alive." Sophia managed a weak smile. "Thanks to you." "Thanks to Sarah, really. She's the one who put the pieces together." He studied her face for a moment. "You were incredibly brave, Sophia. Not many people in your situation would have tried to escape." "I didn't have a choice. It was either try or—" She trailed off. "I know." His expression softened. "For what it's worth, you made the right call. If you'd stayed even one more day, the damage might have been irreversible." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Sophia asked the question that had been nagging at her. "Why did you help me? I'm nobody. I can't pay you anything even close to what your services must cost." James's laugh was warm and unexpected. "You want the truth? I've spent 20 years getting people out of bad situations. Political prisoners, corporate hostages, people trapped in war zones. But I've never been able to stomach men like Marcus Volkov. Men who hide their cruelty behind expensive suits and legal contracts." He met her eyes. "When Sarah told me about you, about what he'd done, let's just say I made it personal. I'll pay you back somehow. When I figure out what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, already handled." Dr. Chen spoke up from her chair. "James and I have a foundation. We help people rebuild after situations like yours. Housing, job placement, legal support, whatever you need." Sophia's throat tightened. "I don't understand. Why would you do all this for a stranger?" "Because you're not a stranger anymore." James's voice was gentle. "You're someone who needed help, and now you're someone who's going to heal and move forward. That's all the reason we need." The physical therapy was brutal. 6 weeks later, Sophia stood in Dr. Chen's clinic. "Sarah," she'd insisted Sophia call her, gripping the parallel bars with white knuckles as she tried to put weight on her ankle for the first time since the surgery. "You're doing great," Sarah encouraged from beside her. "Just a little more. I know it hurts, but you need to push through." Sophia gritted her teeth and took a step. Then another. The pain was intense but manageable. Nothing like the screaming agony of walking on a broken bone. "That's it. Look at you," Sarah beamed. "Sophia, you're ahead of schedule. At this rate, you'll be walking without assistance in another month." The clinic door opened, and James walked in carrying coffee from the shop across the street. This had become routine over the past weeks. He'd stop by during her sessions, bringing coffee and occasionally staying to watch her progress. "She walking?" He handed a cup to Sarah and one to Sophia once she'd made her way to a chair. 3 steps unassisted," Sarah announced proudly. "Our girl's a fighter. I could have told you that." James sat down across from Sophia, studying her with those whiskey-colored eyes. "How's the new apartment?" "Perfect, quiet, safe." Sophia wrapped her hands around the warm cup. The foundation had set her up in a small 1-bedroom in a secure building, had helped her get a job doing remote administrative work for a tech company. For the first time in years, she felt like she was building something that was actually hers. "I still can't believe you did all this." "Believe it." James's smile was soft. "You deserve it, Sophia." There was something in the way he said her name that made her heart skip. Over the past weeks, she'd found herself looking forward to these visits more than she wanted to admit. The way he listened when she talked. The way he made her laugh when the physical therapy got too painful. The way he looked at her, like she was something precious rather than something owned. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and stood quickly. "I need to take this. You two behave." She winked at Sophia and disappeared into her office. The silence that fell wasn't uncomfortable, but it was charged with something unspoken. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia set down her coffee. "Anything? Why do you keep coming here? I know you must be busy with work, with other cases. but you show up 3 times a week like clockwork." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Do you remember what I told you the night I got you out? About making it personal?" She nodded. "I meant that. But maybe not in the way you thought." He held her gaze. "I've spent 2 decades seeing the worst of humanity. The things people do to each other. The cruelty that exists in this world. I'd started to think maybe I'd seen too much, become too cynical." He paused. "And then I met you. This woman who'd been through hell, who had every reason to break, but who kept fighting anyway, who tried to escape knowing she might not make it, who chose hope over resignation." Sophia's breath caught. "You reminded me why I do this work," James continued quietly. "You reminded me that there's still good worth protecting in this world." He reached out and took her hand, his touch warm and solid. "So, that's why I keep showing up. Because somewhere along the way, you became more than just another case. You became someone I can't stop thinking about. Someone I want to know everything about. Someone I—" He stopped, seeming to wrestle with the words. "Someone I'm falling for, if I'm being honest." The confession hung in the air between them, vulnerable and true. Sophia's heart was racing. Part of her wanted to pull back, to protect herself from getting hurt again. But she'd spent 6 months in a cage, built by a man who claimed to care for her, but only wanted to control her. James was different. James had set her free. "I think about you too," she admitted. "All the time. But James, I'm not sure I know how to do this. How to trust again. How to let someone in without being afraid they'll hurt me. Then we'll figure it out together." He squeezed her hand gently. "No pressure, no expectations. Just let me keep showing up. Let me keep bringing you coffee and watching you get stronger every day. Let me prove that not everyone wants to cage you." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but they were good tears this time. Healing tears. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." 3 months later, Sophia walked into the courthouse without crutches, without a cane, without even a limp. James waited for her at the bottom of the steps, hands in his pockets, looking unfairly handsome in a dark suit. His face lit up when he saw her. "Look at you." He closed the distance between them and caught her up in a careful hug. "How does it feel?" "Like freedom." She pulled back to look at him, still marveling at the fact that this incredible man was somehow hers. "Is he here? Being transported from holding now? Should be here any minute." James took her hand as they climbed the courthouse steps together. "Are you sure you want to do this? You don't have to face him, Sophia. Your testimony is already on record." "I need to." She'd thought about this moment for months, had dreamed about it during the hard days of physical therapy when the pain made her want to quit. "I need to look him in the eye and show him that he didn't break me." They found seats in the courtroom gallery. Sarah was already there, saving them spots. Over the past months, she'd become more than just Sophia's physical therapist. She'd become a true friend. The bailiff called for everyone to rise as the judge entered. Then the side door opened, and Marcus Volkov was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked diminished somehow. Smaller. The expensive suits and the mansion and the armed guards had made him seem larger than life, but stripped of all that, he was just a man. A cruel, petty man who'd hurt people because he could. His eyes scanned the gallery and found her. For a moment, shock registered on his face. Shock that she was there. Shock that she was walking. Shock that she looked healthy and whole. Sophia lifted her chin and stared back, refusing to look away. The proceedings were swift. Marcus had tried to fight the charges initially, but the evidence was overwhelming. Financial crimes, human trafficking, assault, unlawful imprisonment. The list went on. His lawyers had finally convinced him to take a plea deal. "Mr. Volkov," the judge said, her voice sharp with disgust, "in all my years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a systematic pattern of abuse and exploitation. You preyed on vulnerable people, used your wealth and power to control and harm them, and showed no remorse for your actions. She leaned forward. The plea agreement before me calls for a sentence of 25 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole before serving 20 years. I'm inclined to accept it, but before I do, I'd like to hear from one of your victims. Ms. Reeves, would you like to make a statement? Sophia stood, her legs steady beneath her. James squeezed her hand once before letting go. She walked to the microphone, aware of every eye in the courtroom on her, aware of Marcus's gaze most of all. 6 months ago, she began, her voice clear and strong, I thought my life was over. I thought I would spend the rest of my days trapped in a mansion, pretending to be someone I wasn't, living in fear of a man who claimed to care for me but only wanted to own me. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Marcus Volkov broke my ankle and told me it was nothing. He forced me to walk on a fractured bone for 2 days, because his pride, his image, was more important than my well-being. He would have let me become permanently disabled rather than show any weakness in front of his associates. Her voice hardened. That's not love. That's not even basic human decency. That's cruelty. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. But here's what he didn't count on. I'm stronger than he thought. And there are people in this world, good people like Dr. Chen and James Blackwood, who fight for people like me. Who believe that everyone deserves to be free, to be safe, to be treated with dignity. She looked directly at Marcus now. You tried to break me. You failed. And now you get to spend the next 20 years knowing that I won, and you lost. She turned back to the judge. I support the plea agreement, Your Honor. 25 years sounds just about right. The courtroom was silent as she walked back to her seat. James put his arm around her shoulders, and she leaned into his warmth. I'm proud of you, he whispered against her hair. The judge accepted the plea deal. Marcus Volkov was led away without looking back, and Sophia felt something inside her chest finally, fully release. It was over. They celebrated that night at a small Italian restaurant, just the 3 of them. Sophia, James, and Sarah. The wine flowed freely. And for the first time in longer than Sophia could remember, she felt genuinely happy. A toast, Sarah raised her glass, to Sophia for being the bravest person I know, and to the future, which is finally yours to write. They clinked glasses, and Sophia felt tears threatening again. Happy tears were becoming her specialty. After dinner, James drove her home. He walked her to her door like he always did, a gentleman even though she'd told him a dozen times he didn't need to. Thank you, she said as she unlocked the door. For today, for everything. Sophia. He caught her hand before she could step inside. Can I tell you something? Always. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About my work, about what I want, about what matters. He pulled her closer until there was barely any space between them. I've spent years saving people and then walking away, moving on to the next case, the next crisis, the next person who needs help. It's what I do. Her heart sank a little. You're leaving. No. His smile was soft and sure. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to walk away this time. I don't want to move on. I want to stay right here, with you, and see where this goes. He cupped her face in his hands. If you'll have me. James. She couldn't find the words, so she showed him instead, rising on her tiptoes to kiss him. It was nothing like kissing Marcus had been, cold and performative and dutiful. This was warm and real and filled with promise. This was choosing someone who chose her back. This was freedom and safety and hope all wrapped up in one perfect moment. When they finally broke apart, James was grinning like a fool. I'm taking that as a yes. Yes, she laughed. Definitely yes. 1 year later, Sophia stood in front of the mirror in Sarah's guest room, smoothing down the simple white dress she'd chosen for the occasion. Through the window, she could see the garden where chairs had been set up, where friends were gathering, where James was probably pacing nervously. Sarah appeared behind her, adjusting the small flower crown in Sophia's hair. "You look beautiful." "I look terrified." "That too," Sarah grinned. "But the good kind of terrified. The, I'm about to marry the love of my life kind." Sophia turned to face her friend. "Thank you for everything. If you hadn't made that phone call—" "Stop!" Sarah pulled her into a hug. "You saved yourself, Sophia. I just made a phone call. You're the one who was brave enough to try to escape. You're the one who fought through months of painful physical therapy. You're the one who stood up in that courtroom and told your truth." She pulled back, eyes shining. "I'm just glad I got to be part of your story." The music started outside, a string quartet playing something soft and romantic. "Ready?" Sarah offered her arm. "Ready." They walked through the house and out into the garden, where 40 of their closest friends waited. Sophia saw familiar faces: Dr. Martinez, who'd done her surgery, Connor and Alex from James's team, even Victor, who'd testified against Marcus and was trying to build a new life. But mostly she saw James. He stood at the end of the short aisle, wearing a dark suit and the biggest smile she'd ever seen on his face. His eyes locked on hers, and the rest of the world fell away. Sarah walked her down the aisle and placed Sophia's hand in James's with a wink. Then the ceremony began. It was simple and perfect. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises of love and trust, of freedom and partnership, of choosing each other every single day. When James slipped the ring on her finger, his hands were shaking slightly. "I love you," he whispered just for her. "My brave, beautiful Sophia." "I love you too," she whispered back. "My hero who taught me I could save myself." The officiant pronounced them married, and James pulled her into a kiss that earned whoops and applause from their guests. That night, as they danced under strings of fairy lights, Sophia thought about the girl she'd been a year ago, broken and trapped and terrified. She thought about the moment she'd tried to escape, not knowing if she'd succeed. She thought about all the people who'd helped her along the way. But mostly, she thought about the man holding her close, the man who'd shown her what real love looked like. Love that didn't cage. Love that didn't control. Love that gave her wings instead of chains. "What are you thinking about?" James asked, spinning her gently. "Everything." She smiled up at him. "How much my life has changed. How happy I am." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "Because this is just the beginning, Mrs. Blackwood. We've got the rest of our lives ahead of us. Then let's make them count." They danced until the stars came out, surrounded by friends and joy and possibility. And somewhere in a federal prison, Marcus Volkov sat alone in a cell. His empire crumbled to dust, while the woman he'd tried to break was finally, completely, beautifully free. She'd walked away with a limp, and she'd come back whole. That was victory enough. The honeymoon in Scotland was everything Sophia had dreamed of. Misty highlands, cozy cottages, mornings wrapped in James's arms watching the sunrise over ancient locks. They'd been back in the States for 3 weeks when the first letter arrived. Sophia found it in their mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon, wedged between the electric bill and a furniture catalog. Plain white envelope, no return address. Her name written in handwriting that made her blood run cold. She knew that precise, angular script. She'd seen it on hundreds of notes left throughout the mansion. Instructions, criticisms, orders. Marcus. Her hands shook as she carried it inside, dropping it on the kitchen counter like it might bite her. She stared at it for a full minute before James came home from a meeting with a potential client. "Hey, beautiful." He kissed her cheek, then noticed her face. "What's wrong?" She pointed at the envelope. James picked it up, examined the handwriting, and his expression went dark. "When did this arrive?" "Today. I haven't opened it." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Connor, I need you to run a trace on a piece of mail. Postmarked from Colorado. Federal Correctional Institution, Inglewood. He paused, listening. Yes, I know he's supposed to have restricted correspondence. That's why I'm calling you. Another pause. Thanks. I'll send photos. He photographed the envelope from every angle, sent them, then looked at Sophia. Do you want to open it? No. Yes. I don't know. She wrapped her arms around herself. He's supposed to be locked up. He's not supposed to be able to contact me. He's not. This is a violation of the restraining order. James set the envelope down carefully. We don't have to open it. We can turn it over to the police as evidence, and I want to know what it says. Sophia reached for it with trembling fingers. I can't spend the rest of my life wondering. James moved closer, his presence solid and reassuring. Then we'll open it together. She tore open the envelope and pulled out a single sheet of paper. The message was brief. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope you're enjoying your freedom. But freedom is an illusion, Sophia. You'll learn that soon enough. My family doesn't forget. They don't forgive. And they're not bound by the same legal constraints that hold me. Tell your husband to watch his back. Tell him the Volkov name means something in this world. Tell him he made a very powerful enemy when he decided to play hero. I'll see you again, both of you. Yours always. Sophia's vision blurred. The paper slipped from her hands and James caught it, his jaw tightening as he read. That son of a... He pulled out his phone again. Connor, change of plans. I need full security on our home immediately. And get me the warden at FCI Inglewood on the line. Someone's about to have a very bad day. Over the next hour, their quiet apartment transformed into a fortress. Connor arrived with 2 other members of James's team, installing additional locks, cameras, motion sensors. James spent the entire time on the phone, with the warden, with the FBI agent who'd worked Marcus's case, with his lawyer. Sophia sat on the couch, numb, watching it all unfold. This was supposed to be over. Marcus was supposed to be locked away, powerless, unable to hurt anyone ever again. But even from prison, he was still finding ways to terrorize her. Sarah showed up an hour later, summoned by James. She sat beside Sophia and took her hand. Hey, talk to me. I thought I was safe. Sophia's voice came out flat. I thought we could just live our lives, be normal. But he's still there, still in my head, still threatening. No. Sarah squeezed her hand hard. He's desperate and lashing out because he has nothing else. That letter? That's not power. That's pathetic. He mentioned his family. What if he's right? What if they come after us? James hung up his phone and crossed to kneel in front of her. Listen to me. The Volkov family is in chaos right now. Marcus's arrest triggered a power vacuum that his cousins are fighting over. They're too busy trying to kill each other to worry about revenge against us. He cupped her face gently. And even if they did come after us, I've been preparing for this possibility since the day I got you out. We're not easy targets, Sophia. The warden confirmed Marcus sent this through a corrupt guard who's now being investigated, Connor added from across the room. It won't happen again, and the FBI is adding witness intimidation to Marcus's charges. But 3 days later, James's car exploded. He wasn't in it, thank God. It was parked in the underground garage of his office building when the bomb went off at 7 a.m. James had stopped to talk with the building security guard about football, a conversation that saved his life. The blast sent him flying backward, and he woke up in the hospital with a concussion, 3 cracked ribs, and burns on his left arm. Sophia was still in bed when Sarah called her, was still pulling on clothes when Connor picked her up and drove her to the hospital with an armed escort. She ran through the emergency room doors to find James sitting up in a bed, arguing with a doctor about being discharged. You have a concussion, the doctor was saying firmly. You need to stay for observation. My wife is about to walk through that door terrified out of her mind, and I need to be able to tell her I'm fine. James spotted Sophia, and his expression softened. See? There she is. Sophia, I'm fine. She burst into tears. He opened his arms and she flew into them, careful of his injuries but desperate to touch him, to confirm he was real and alive and breathing. "You're not fine, you idiot. Your car exploded. Someone tried to kill you. Technically, they tried to kill both of us." His voice was gentle against her hair. "There was a timer. The bomb was set to go off at 7:30, when I usually pick you up on the way to your therapy appointment." The implication hit her like a physical blow. If James had been on schedule, if he'd picked her up as planned, they would both have been in that car. The Volkoffs. She pulled back to look at him. It was Marcus's family. FBI's working on that assumption. Connor's team is already digging into who might have planted it. He wiped her tears with his thumb. "But Sophia, I need you to hear me right now. This doesn't change anything. We're not going to live in fear. We're not going to let them win. They almost killed you, but they didn't, and now they've made themselves a target." Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "They want a war? They're going to get one." The FBI confirmed it 2 days later. Security footage showed a man matching the description of Nikolai Volkov, Marcus's cousin and current frontrunner in the family power struggle, entering the parking garage the night before the explosion. They'd found trace evidence of his DNA in James's car. "We're bringing him in for questioning," Agent Patricia Morrison told them in their living room, which now looked more like a command center than a home. "But I'll be honest with you, these people are slippery. Even if we can place him at the scene, proving he planted the bomb is harder." "Then don't prove it in court," James said quietly. "Prove it in other ways." Agent Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Blackwood, I can't condone. I'm not talking about vigilante justice. I'm talking about using the same tactics we used against Marcus. Financial pressure, evidence gathering, making it impossible for them to operate." He leaned forward. "You want the Volkov family gone as much as we do. Let me help you do it the right way." What followed was 3 weeks of intensive investigation. James's team worked around the clock, digging into every aspect of the Volkov operation. They found shell companies, money laundering schemes, connections to other criminal organizations. They built a case so comprehensive that when the FBI finally moved in, they arrested 17 people in a single coordinated sweep. Nikolai Volkov was among them. Sophia watched the news coverage from their temporary safe house, a secure apartment Connor had arranged, and felt something loosen in her chest. James sat beside her, his arm in a sling but otherwise recovered, and pulled her close. "It's really over this time," he said softly. "The entire Volkov operation is done." "What about Marcus? What happens to him now?" "He gets to spend the rest of his sentence knowing his family's legacy is destroyed. That's almost better than killing him." James kissed the top of her head. "He gets to live with the knowledge that he lost everything when he tried to cage you." But Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. That night, she dreamed about Marcus standing at the top of those marble stairs, about falling, about the impact. She woke up gasping, James's arms immediately around her. Bad dream? Always the same one. She pressed her face against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. What if it never goes away? What if I spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? Then I'll be right there beside you, looking over mine too. He pulled back to meet her eyes. Sophia, trauma doesn't just disappear because the threat is gone. That's okay. That's normal. But we'll work through it together. Sarah started Sophia on trauma therapy the following week. It was hard. Painful work, confronting the fear and helplessness, processing what had happened, learning to trust that she was truly safe. Some days were better than others. 2 months after the car bombing, Agent Morrison called with unexpected news. Marcus Volkov wants to meet with you. Sophia's hand tightened on the phone. Absolutely not. Hear me out. He claims he has information about a remaining threat, someone in his organization we missed. He says he'll only give the information to you, face to face. It's a trap, James said from across the room. He'd been listening on speaker. He wants to see her suffer. That's all this is. Maybe, Agent Morrison admitted. But if there is someone we missed, someone who might retaliate, don't you want to know? Sophia looked at James. They'd been through so much, survived so much. Part of her wanted to refuse on principle, but another part, the part that had tried to escape that night, that had testified in court, that had fought her way back to walking. That part wanted to face Marcus one final time. "I'll do it," she said. "But James comes with me. That's not both of us or neither of us. Those are the terms." Agent Morrison sighed. "Fine, I'll arrange it." 3 days later, they sat in a stark white visitation room at FCI Englewood, waiting. Sophia's palms were sweating despite the cool air. James held her hand tight enough to hurt, but she didn't tell him to loosen his grip. The door opened and Marcus walked in. Prison had changed him. His perfect posture was gone, replaced by a slight slump. His expensive suits were traded for an orange jumpsuit. But his eyes, those cold gray eyes, were exactly the same. He sat down across from them, wrists shackled to the table, and smiled. "Hello, Sophia. Marriage suits you. You look happy." She didn't answer. "Mr. Volkov," James said icily, "you claimed to have information. Provide it, or we're leaving." Always so direct. Marcus's gaze shifted to James. "You know, I actually respect what you did. Coming into my home, taking what was mine, destroying everything I built. It was impressive. Stupid, but impressive." "The information," Agent Morrison prompted from her position by the door. Marcus leaned back as much as his restraints allowed. "There is no information, no remaining threat. My organization is dead, my family scattered to the winds. You won everything." He looked back at Sophia. "I just wanted to see you one last time. To understand how you did it." "How I did what?" Sophia's voice came out steadier than she felt. "How you broke free. How you made yourself believe you deserved more than what I gave you." His tone was genuinely curious. "I gave you everything, Sophia. Safety, wealth, purpose. I protected you from a world that would have chewed you up and spit you out. And you threw it all away for, what? The chance to work some meaningless job? To live in a modest apartment? To be ordinary?" Sophia stood up, James rising with her. "You want to know how I did it? I realize that a cage is still a cage, even if it's gilded. I realize that love doesn't hurt. That real strength isn't about control. It's about trust." She leaned forward slightly. "You taught me exactly what I didn't want. And for that, I guess I should thank you." For the first time, something cracked in Marcus's composure. Hurt flashed across his face, quickly hidden but unmistakable. "I loved you," he said quietly. "In my own way, I did." "No." Sophia shook her head. "You loved owning me. There's a difference." She turned and walked toward the door, James right beside her. Behind them, Marcus called out one last time. "You'll remember me, Sophia. Years from now, when your ordinary life feels suffocating, when the novelty wears off and you're left with bills and responsibilities and boredom, you'll remember that I offered you something extraordinary." Sophia paused at the door and looked back. "You're right. I will remember you. Every time I walk without pain. Every time I make my own choices. Every time I wake up next to a man who loves me instead of owns me." She smiled, and it was genuine. "I'll remember you as the biggest mistake I ever escaped from. Goodbye, Marcus." They walked out together, and the door locked behind them with a final, decisive click. Outside the prison, the sunlight was almost blindingly bright. Sophia tilted her face up to it, breathing deeply. "How do you feel?" James asked. "Free?" She laughed, surprised by the truth of it. "Actually, truly free. He doesn't scare me anymore. He's just a man who made terrible choices and lost everything because of them." James pulled her into his arms, careful but tight. "I'm so proud of you." They drove home in comfortable silence, the mountains of Colorado giving way to familiar streets. When they pulled up to their apartment building, Sophia noticed the "sold" sign had finally been removed from the townhouse 2 blocks away, the one they'd put an offer on last month. Our closing is next week, James reminded her. Are you ready for the chaos of moving? With you, I'm ready for anything. That night, they sat on their balcony watching the city lights, Sophia curled into James's side. Her ankle didn't hurt anymore. Her nightmares were getting less frequent. The fear that had lived in her chest for so long was finally genuinely fading. I've been thinking, she said softly, about Sarah's foundation, about how they helped me rebuild. Yeah? I want to help. Not just with donations, but actually help. Maybe work with other survivors, show them that there's life after captivity. She looked up at him. Would that be okay? If I did something like that? James's smile was warm and proud. Sophia, you don't need my permission to do anything. That's the whole point. He kissed her forehead. But for what it's worth, I think you'd be incredible at it. 6 months later, Sophia stood in front of a small group of women, survivors like her, pulled from dangerous situations, learning to rebuild their lives. She told them her story, all of it, and watched recognition and hope dawn in their eyes. The thing about being trapped, she said, is that you start to believe the trap is all there is. That safety and love look like control. That you deserve the pain. She paused, making eye contact with each woman. But you don't. None of us do. And the moment you decide to fight, even if you're terrified, even if you don't know if you'll make it, that's when you start winning. After the session, a young woman approached her. How long until it stops hurting? She asked quietly. Until I stop being afraid? Sophia thought about Marcus in that visitation room, about the power he no longer had over her. Honestly, it takes as long as it takes. Some days are harder than others. But every day you survive, you get a little bit stronger. And eventually you wake up and realize the person you were afraid of is just someone who doesn't matter anymore. That evening, she and James christened their new townhouse by cooking dinner together in their larger kitchen, laughing as they accidentally created chaos with flour and spilled wine. Their life was ordinary in the best possible way, full of small joys and shared routines and plans for the future. As they settled onto their new couch with glasses of wine, James's phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at it and showed Sophia the headline, Marcus Volkov denied parole, will serve full 25-year sentence. Good, Sophia said simply, taking a sip of her wine. The news didn't make her anxious or afraid. It was just information. Nothing more. James set his phone aside and pulled her closer. To us, he said, raising his glass. To freedom, to healing, and to the extraordinary life we're building from perfectly ordinary moments. Sophia clinked her glass against his. To us, and to walking away when we need to, and staying when we want to. They kissed as the sunset painted their new living room in shades of gold and rose. Two people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to build something beautiful in the light. The past would always be there, but it was just that. The past. Their future stretched out ahead, full of possibility and promise, and the kind of love that set people free instead of caging them. And somewhere in a prison cell, Marcus Volkov sat alone with his regrets, while the woman he'd tried to break lived a life more fulfilling than he could ever imagine. Not because it was extraordinary, but because it was hers.